Hi everyone. Hope all is well. This is McNutty, and just we're just gonna be covering the NFC East in the National Football League for 2026, for the 2026-2027 season coming up. And I just want to talk about some future sports betting odds and just some of my best bets and just what's marinating in my head for this upcoming football season for the NFC East. Um, so this is NFC East is usually a division where it does not have a repeat division winner. I believe last year when the Eagles won it, that was the first time in I think like 15 or so years there had been a repeat winner in the NFC East. And and actually my favorite team in the futures betting market is actually I believe a team I've never even supported. It's actually since I've gotten into future sports betting, which was around the year 2019, and so there's four teams. Yeah, so the team I'm actually feel strongest on is the Dallas Cowboys. I've never really. I'm usually someone that kind of like if I'm torn between things, I usually like trying to fade the public. And shout out to someone I follow on X from Sports Grid, Opposite Pick, Scott Wetzel. I probably share some philosophies with him on that. And Dallas Cowboys, America's team, a lot of loud brass fans, usually a lot of support. Usually the numbers are inflated. Some things I like. I actually Yeah, so I like Dallas Cowboys over 8.5 wins, and you can get them over 8.5 wins on DraftKings. I will be using just DraftKings numbers today. Sometimes I use numbers from other sportsbook, but on DraftKings you can get Dallas Cowboys over 8.5 wins. It is -150, so that is pretty heavy juice. But I feel like that's a pretty safe bet this season. I mean, disclaiming there's nothing safe, but like I feel like it's worth the juice. It's juicy, but you could also go. I don't mind over 9.5. Over 9.5 wins is +115, so that's not too bad either um, for the Dallas Cowboys. And I also wouldn't mind putting a few shekels on them to win the NFC East at +235 in DraftKings to make the playoffs +105. And yeah, and so some things about the Cowboys I'm optimistic on is the biggest reason why I'm optimistic on them is actually a coaching change. I actually kind of like their head coach. I believe it was his first year last year as a head coach, Brian Schottenheimer. Um, he seemed like he really handled the tragic Marshawn Nealand situation with the team um, pretty mature in a pretty mature and professional manner. He seems like a pretty good leader. But the defensive coordinator, I have good vibes with the Christian Parker hire. Christian Parker is coming over from the Philadelphia Eagles. He was their defensive backs coach and I think passing game coordinator. Christian Parker will be the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator for this upcoming season. And I get good vibes from him. And I also get the Dallas Cowboys' previous defensive coordinator was Matt Eberflus, who I mean, I've never met him. He might be a nice guy, but I just feel like he's kind of just I don't know. I don't have much faith in Matt Eberflus as a head coach. I remember he did something really foolish that cost the Chicago Bears a game when he was the head coach of the Bears. He was the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, maybe for about the last two seasons. I don't have much faith in him as an NFL coach. He seems kind of, yes, I don't get good vibes. I almost feel like he probably shouldn't be a coach in the National Football League, maybe in college or Division II college or like defensive coordinator at D1 level or something. But I think that's one of the most optimistic things on the Dallas Cowboys. Um, I also like the draft pick safety from Ohio State, Caleb Downs. Optimistic with that. And I actually do not think, I know Jerry Jones has taken a lot of heat for making brass moves, just going after players he wants, etc., and making risky moves. I actually, looking back, don't mind the Micah Parsons trade so bad. I mean, you can never predict injuries, and Micah Parsons tore his ACL. Um, but I don't mind that trade so bad looking back on it. The Dallas Cowboys got Kenny Clark. I think they might have got two first round picks for Micah Parsons too. And DeJuan Bland, who I believe is an outstanding cornerback. He should be fully healthy this season. He's someone who had, I think, 5 pick sixes a couple years ago and 9 interceptions in a season. He's had 1 or 2 off years. Last year he was hurt a little bit. He should be pretty healthy. And Demavian Overshawn, he's a young linebacker pass rusher. He was hurt last year. He had 5 sacks as a rookie 2 seasons ago, I believe. And I'm kind of optimistic with him. Rashawn Gary, another outside linebacker pass rusher from the Green Bay Packers, who the Dallas Cowboys signed. I think that's a pretty solid pickup. Malaki Lawrence, a draft pick. So I'm optimistic that their defense can be significantly better than last year. And last year, the Dallas Cowboys, by most metrics, had one of the worst defenses in the National Football League. If this defense can just be average, I really like that over 8.5 wins. And then on the offensive side, you have Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, when he's healthy, he's a very good quarterback, especially in fantasy. It's yet to be, especially in fantasy, in regular season, it's yet to be known whether he's a good playoff, a big game quarterback. But we're just focused on over 8.5 wins. And the thing, Dak Prescott has been a little injury prone in his career. But what I like about the Dallas Cowboys with the improved defense, which I think could actually be better than average, but if their defense is just average and Prescott's healthy, I think the Dallas Cowboys can sail over that 8.5 wins. I like the Dallas Cowboys backup, actually second and third string quarterback situation. They have Joe Milton the third, who they got from the Patriots. Remember, up here in New England, he played pretty good that last game of the season 2 years ago. It might have cost. Actually, he probably already made the decision. It might have cost um, Gerard Mayo his head coaching job because they won that game, which hurt the Patriots draft pick status. But the Cowboys also brought in Sam Howell, who me and my uncle were really high on a couple of years ago in the Commanders. I still think Sam Howell could be definitely one of the best backup quarterbacks. I think he was a third round pick. He was pretty good at UNC, and I think the ACC is better than people think. Um, so I like Sam Howell. I like the backup quarterback situation if Dak misses 3 or 4 games. Um, yeah, on the offensive side, I really like Ryan Flournoy. I think he had about 475 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns last year, second year in the league. He was pretty good in college. I think he could be an underrated number 3 wide receiver. Javante Williams, I mean, some people might think last year was a fluke, but he had high expectations coming out of UNC when he was drafted by the Denver Broncos. And Dallas Cowboys usually have a pretty solid offensive line. It's probably not as good as it used to be, but that might have not been so fluky. Javante Williams, he was just kind of hurt in Denver, and the Cowboys have a pretty good offense. And they have Jaden Blue there, who I've heard some positive reports. There was some hype going into last season. Not sure he can be great, but like as a number 2 or 3 running back mixing in. They have Jaden Blue too. And so I'm just optimistic on the Dallas Cowboys. And they also have Brandon Aubrey. Brandon Aubrey is a weapon in himself. Aubrey as a kicker, like he's incredible. He kicks in a dome. So I'm optimistic on the Cowboys. With football season, how I do futures, I don't like investing too heavily in one team because in football, a lot of actually this might not apply to the Cowboys, but like if a quarterback goes hurt, it kind of could be over. Like I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan. If Lamar goes down, the Ravens could go from a 13-4 team to a 7-10 team. For the Buffalo Bills, if Josh Allen goes down, they could go from like a 11-6 team to a 6-11 team. So like I kind of like diversifying and having playing shares in a lot of teams. I don't play that many teams under wins, but like maybe I'll go over on 10 teams, under in 2 teams. But I like Dallas Cowboys over 8.5 wins, -150. These are all in DraftKings. Dallas Cowboys to win the NFC East plus 235, to make the playoffs plus 105. I'd put a few dollars on Dak Prescott for MVP. If everything clicks out, the defense supports them, they win like 13 or 14 games. You can get Dak Prescott for MVP plus 1,300, 13-1. Maybe even put a couple dollars on the Dallas Cowboys to win the NFC because the Rams look pretty good, but Matthew Stafford is older, and they'd be solid even if he got hurt. But like, and there's other teams too, but you can get the Dallas Cowboys plus 1,300 to win the NFC. And I actually to get the best numbers for me, I highly recommend following me on X. My X tag is BWIMcNutty. BWIMcNutty. Whenever I see something juicy, I post it right away. I post it right away when I bet it. To get the best numbers of anything, it's BWIMcNutty. Just like that on X. That's how you get the best numbers from me. I actually got some shares of the Dallas Cowboys 16-1 at the NFC to win the NFC probably about a month and a half ago. And I got them over 8.5 wins, not significantly different, but a little less juice, not as juicy. Negative 135. It's now negative 150. Odds always change. And yeah, odds always change. I might make errors in my facts. Nothing's guaranteed. Please gamble responsibly. And this is just for fun, entertainment purposes. I love it. I love the process of it more than just as much as winning and stuff. It's not about, like I mentioned in previous videos, I actually think sports betting's gone too far with things like I don't live bet and stuff. I actually don't even like how they have odds on like Sports Center and stuff. I think they should have separate channels. Let kids be kids and enjoy sports and have like Sports Grid and things like I'm doing for this future sports betting. But I like the Dallas Cowboys. Um, yeah, that's just me. I recommend following me on all my platforms for my campaign, for this campaign, Balling with Intentions. And yeah, that's just me. I would just put a few dollars for NFC plus 1,300. I would recommend a few dollars. Dak Prescott MVP plus 1,300. And the second team, this team I'm not as optimistic on, but I think the number's too low. And that's the Washington Commanders. In my time of future sports betting, I have had terrible luck with Washington D.C. teams. It's like I'm cursed. I was big on the Sam Howell team. Was that? I think that was no 3 seasons ago, before Jaden Daniels was drafted. Me and my uncle, we hit them hard. I was big on that Wizards team with Bradley Beal, Kyle Kuzma, Kristaps Porzingis. I thought they were value 500-1, like to win the championship. I think 300-1 to win the conference and stuff. And they had a baby, and I was right about some things. They had a baby, Denny Avila, and they had a baby, Daniel Gafford. And I was right that those guys were unknowns, but just that team blew so many like 15, 20 point fourth quarter leads. I've had bad luck with DC teams, but I'm optimistic in the Washington Commanders. Um, I like the Commanders all in DraftKings. Over 7.5 wins, negative 125. I think the number's too low. This team, I think they made the NFC Championship game, I believe, 2 years ago. They kind of got trounced by the. They kind of got. Yeah, I think they made the NFC Championship game 2 years ago. Who they lose to? Was it the Eagles? I think it was the Eagles. But yeah, I think 7.5 is too low. I actually kind of even like here Marcus Mariota, who's become a really good veteran. I mean, he didn't really live up to the hype. I think he was the second overall pick, but as a backup, he's become a pretty mature, um, high end backup in my opinion. Played a little bit last season, so I like the over 7.5 wins, negative 125. They also they probably have a third or fourth place schedule. I put a couple dollars in the Washington Commanders to make the playoffs plus 215, and then probably even a little less, a couple dollars, them to win the NFC East plus 460. And more than just, I mean, you got Jaden Daniels back. I'm not as big of a Jaden Daniels believer as some people. Like 2 seasons, I was kind of definitely on a fade them last year, especially because even in that breakout rookie season, Jaden Daniels got sacked a lot if you look at the numbers. Um, so there was some aggression. I was actually telling people, some friends, that I thought even after Jaden Daniels' breakout rookie season, he might still be the third best quarterback between Drake May and Caleb Williams. Who knows will be true, but I actually did tell people that. It's not on video or post or anything. And part of that reason is because I think Jaden Daniels is 2 full years older than Drake May, even though they were the same class. And I think that's always important to look in because, I mean, Jaden Daniels, I think he played at Arizona State and LSU, but Jaden Daniels, that number is just too low. He's still if he's healthy, he's a very, very good quarterback. I also love the Sonny Styles draft pick, that linebacker from Ohio State. He very looks like he can be a game changer. Their defense, I like them picking up a former Baltimore Raven, Adafi Owe. He didn't really live up to what we expected in Baltimore, but he's still a solid pass rusher with a lot of great athletic traits and upside. This guy's become a very trendy third-round pick rookie from Clemson. It's weird. A lot of Clemson players were drafted pretty high in the NFL draft, even though they were pretty abysmal last year. But Antonio Williams, um, I'd probably be cautious of Antonio Williams in fantasy football, but I do think Antonio Williams could be a pretty good sleeper, especially as a secondary option for Jaden Daniels. I like Rashad White pickup. He has actually pretty solid last year. He had been a little inefficient early in his career. He had about 4.3 yards a carry. Rashad White, let's check. He has pretty efficient pass catching numbers too. Too. I think that's underrated. I wouldn't be surprised if he would have taken the job from Jakrowski Merritt. I might have butchered his name, but yeah, Jakrowski Merritt's not really a pass catcher. Rashad White, yeah, 6 feet 214. Last season, 4.3 yards a carry, 132 carries, did not fumble the ball in any receptions, 40 catches on 45 targets. Rashad White has 205 career catches on 230 targets. That's pretty good efficiency. Does have a career 3.9 yards a carry. Like I said, last year was tied for the best. Year before, 4.3 yards a carry too. And he has pretty good size for a pass catching back. I'm not saying he's going to be a superstar or anything, make the Pro Bowl, but I think Rashad White, that could be a more underrated pickup than people think. Um, yeah, yeah. So that's an interesting pickup. As far as getting over 7.5 wins, um, yeah, yes, I like that pickup. Like the I'm not sure the defense will be great. I think they got. I think the Commanders got a solid linebacker. Used to be a Patriot. Clavon Chasen. Yes, Clavon Chasen. He had 7.5 sacks for the Super Bowl for this AFC Championship Patriots last year. So they really revamped their linebacker core. So the Dallas Cowboys and the Commanders pretty atrocious defenses last year. Um, Even if these two teams just have relatively average defenses, I really like those numbers to go. I really like those numbers to go over 7.5 wins, -125. That's only a little juicy, not as so. It's not bad. For the Washington Commanders, and if you want to make the playoffs, +215. And if you wanted to go over DraftKings, 8.5 wins. Oh, 8.5 wins, +140. That's not bad. They could win 9 games, still miss the playoffs, +140. That might be worth a look for sure. For sure. Yeah, so those are two teams I'm optimistic on. Commanders and Jacoy Crosby Merritt. I think he has some potential as a rusher. And even looking down the running back depth chart, I mean, Katron Allen, yeah, a couple of years ago, he's probably projected to be higher than a 6 round pick. He was a 6 round pick, but I mean, he played a few years at Penn State. They kind of struggled last year, but I mean, he still probably has a little upside. Oh, and Chiga Conquo, that's an interesting pickup too. Chiga Conquo, kind of a forgotten tight end. He played for the Tennessee Titans. He's kind of coming home. Actually, not sure where he's from. I know he played at his college ball, University of Maryland Terrapins. Um, Chica Conquil, 194 catches in 4 seasons, 2,017 yards and 8 touchdowns, about 500 yards a season. The thing I like about him, he's kind of been in an absolute mess in Tennessee. I kind of mentioned Matt Eberflus again. This guy is probably a nice guy, Will Levis, but I think Will Levis is kind of not a formidable NFL quarterback, not even a backup, not even a third string. Will Levis, I mean, could be a nice guy. I don't even know if he's a CFL quarterback. If you watch him play, it was kind of dumpster diving and just it seemed like he should be involved for sports betting involvement. It seemed like he was trying to throw the ball to other teams. So like Chigaconquo put up about 500 yards a year dealing with him as his quarterback for some of the time. And Mason Rudolph, who isn't that much better, but he's probably more a journeyman backup. He is what he is. Um, Chigaconquo had some athletic upside coming out of the draft. Yeah, it's interesting. Him going to DC, better system. I know the Commanders don't have. Yeah, they have a new offensive coordinator. They do not have Cliff Kingsbury, but I think Chicago is a wild card. And like I said, we're only trying to go over 7.5 and maybe a little couple bucks, couple shekels over 8.5 wins +140. I think this is all interesting, and I think the number is just too low. Number was too high last year. I forget what it was, but I just did not support the Commanders. I've had terrible luck with DC teams, so I'm gonna only bet them lightly just to try to get on the winning on the winning board with a Washington DC team. But that's what I'm thinking with them. And then the other two teams in the division. So we got the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants. The New York Giants, as a Baltimore Ravens fan, um, so they have some Ravens. They have John Harbaugh. I have to say, John Harbaugh, he will always have a place in Ravens history. I think he's a great person. Everything I see, great person. Always have a place in Ravens history. Who knows is Brian Billick, our all-time greatest coach, or John Harbaugh. It's one of them two. We've only been around since 1996. I would go Billick just because of the I would go Brian Billick just because of the kind of the cocky personality that really mixed in with that 2000 defense. But John Harbaugh, he kind of reminds me of another good coach and a great guy who I'm not sure should be up for the NBA Hall of Fame, Doc Rivers. But John Harbaugh reminds me of the Doc Rivers of the NFL. High floor, low ceiling. I thought we should have replaced John Harbaugh as a Baltimore Ravens fan after the 2024 AFC Championship loss against the Kansas City Chiefs. He wasn't on the field, but I don't think we ran the ball enough. The players, Zay Flowers had some fumbles. The players seemed to lose their composure. I think that has to go with the coach. And then that loss, I know Andrews, the following season, the playoff loss to the Buffalo Bills. Again, not John Harbaugh's fault. It's not all just Andrews, but I feel like as a Baltimore Ravens fan, we've had, if past 6 seasons, maybe a top five, a top three roster for the past 6 years, roughly. So I kind of replaced them. I thought after that 2024 AFC Championship game against the Kansas City Chiefs, Harbaugh should have been replaced. And my friends know me know I'm telling the truth. And then I thought for sure after that Buffalo Bills loss, a little over a year ago, it was after this year when we lost that last game against the Steelers that decided the division. But like I said, high floor coach. I think John Harbaugh's ideal role is coaching like the Tennessee Titans, like Doc Rivers, high floor, good veteran coach, been around a while, like the Tennessee Titans or the Cleveland Browns. He would have been a great hire for the Cleveland Browns. I know I have some family in Ohio because the Browns with Harbaugh, you probably win 8 games. Big, oh my goodness, we might have a winning season. Same with Tennessee, or like, sorry, or like I don't know, New Orleans Saints. Although the Saints might be some people are optimistic on them this season, but like, you get what I mean. Yeah, so like there's a lot of hype in the Giants. I'm not crazy about the John Harbaugh. I think he is what he is. I think the number for them is 7.5 wins. I don't like betting under. So for me, the Giants is a no play. Is a no play for me. It's over 7.5 wins, -110, under 7.5, -110. They're a no play. I'm concerned about the offensive skill position depth between Cam Scatterboo, Jackson Dart, Malik Neighbors. I think if any one of them goes down, and they all could definitely get hurt. Jackson Dart seems like he's not willing to change how he plays, and that's okay. I mean, and there's also some weird things. Jackson Dart, I know he took some heat. I mean, I don't think it's irrelevant. We're definitely not getting into politics on this channel, but there seemed like there was some locker room stuff. I don't know if it's resolved or not between him and another teammate because he like introduced Trump at a rally. But it's in Cam Scatterboo, he seems kind of like a bold hothead too, and Dot seems like he's not going to change the way he played. Cam Scatterboo, and they just seem kind of young and they're bold. And I mean, if one of those guys goes down, they could get hurt. We're not hearing good reports on Malik Neighbors, who dealt with a pretty serious, I think ACL, I could be wrong, ACL, MCL, knee injury. Hasn't been good reports. Seems like they've been kind of hush. If any one of those three goes down, I definitely don't like them over 7.5 wins. They got Isaiah Likely from the Ravens. But it's weird because John Harbaugh was the head coach. He was like, it feel like he was so hesitant to open up Isaiah Likely. I remember 2 years ago, that week 1 against Kansas City Chiefs, he just had a dominant game and almost by like half a foot, not even, we would have won the game, that touchdown, that would have been touchdown at the end. But I mean, I still will probably have a share to Isaiah Likely in fantasy football, but like John Harbaugh was his coach and never really underlied him. And Theo Johnson actually had some solid numbers. So I'm concerned offensive skill position depth. I'd be concerned about the defensive line after trading Dexter Lawrence. The linebacker core looks phenomenal for the Giants. Looks phenomenal, but there's so many questions. The secondary, I don't think, has been that good, but the linebacker core, Arvell Reese, Tremaine Edmonds, Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, especially, yeah, Tremaine Edmonds, Brian Burns, that's a great linebacker. For me, it's a no play. If everything clicks, they probably sail over the 7.5 wins. But uh, yeah, even Jackson Dot, his underlying numbers aren't as good as you'd think. I think let's see, Jackson Dot last season, he actually only had 6.7 yards per pass attempt, and he was sacked 35 times in 14 games. So like I think he was better in fantasy football than real life. He had 9 rushing touchdowns. So like if you separate real life and fantasy football, he was still very good for a rookie. Very very good, but I think he's injury prone. League might adjust for him. Actually, wasn't as good in real life as you'd think. And yeah, for me the Giants are a no play. And then the fourth team we're going to cover is the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't like betting under teams. It's hard for me to root against teams, but if I were to bet a team under in this division, Giants would be no play because everything clicks. They can sail over. It would be Eagles under 10.5 wins, negative 140, heavy juice to miss the playoffs plus 154. If you like betting unders, I would look at both of those. So if the Eagles, I'm concerned with their defense. I think the defense might fall off. Towards the end of last year, their defense didn't seem that good. Just by the eye test, a few games I watched in the playoffs, um, especially in the playoffs. Yeah, I think against that 49ers. I think the 49ers were down a lot of players, and and the Eagles are heavily favored. And that Eagles defense, didn't look nearly like the same defense against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and that whole year. The year before, they were dominant. I know they still got Vic Fangio, but I think there's some aggression in defense. I don't think Jake Elliott's that good of a kicker anymore. I mean, kickers can change. He's still not that old, but I don't think he's a great kicker. I'm concerned about the running back depth behind Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley regressed last year. We know running back, it could be short careers. And yeah, Saquon Barkley, he wasn't always consistently great in the Giants. It is a better ecosystem in Philadelphia, and he is a great talent. And he seems like a great person, great running back. But I'm not a huge believer in Will Shipley or Tank Bigsby. I never really bought the Tank Bigsby hype. If Saquon goes down, I'm not ready to say Mekhi Lemon is. I know some people compared him to Monra St. Brown. I'm not ready to do that. I think they're both from USC, similar builds. I mean, I'm sure he's great for a young rookie wide receiver. He was a pretty high draft pick. I don't think he's going to be AJ Brown. I'm not as big a believer in Dontavian Wicks, even though I don't think anyone high in him. But they did trade for him and trade future draft capital for him from the Green Bay Packers. So I don't think the pass catchers are as good as people think. Devontae Smith, I think he's solid for number one. And yeah, this offensive line is good. I'm not sure it's great anymore. It is a very good offensive line, though. Um, I just see some aggression. I see their defense being average to below average. I see concerns running back that skill positions, Jake Elliott, and even Nick Sirianni. I do kind of like Nick Sirianni's boldness, and I was actually probably a little bit of a sport of saying he's a better coach and people give him credit for a good locker room guy. I'm not sure he's a great X's and O's guy, and now if this team kind of not having the talent, I definitely am not ready to say he's an above average head coach. So like, yes, I'm more on. If I would have bet the Eagles, I would bet them to miss the playoffs plus 154, and then a little bit in the under 10.5 wins, negative 140. And this is my handicap for the NFC East. Please feel free to comment. Thank you so much for your time, and you can follow me on. I should have mentioned this intro video X BWIMcNutty, just like that, on YouTube BWI underscore McNutty MCNUTTY, and on Instagram BWI underscore McNutty MCNUTTY. Thank you so much for your time. Please subscribe, comment, like, share your honest opinion. I like it. Feel free to share my campaign, this channel, with